Hey everyone, welcome. This is Mark with Excel for Accountants, and today we're picking up on my XLOOKUP video series, and we're going to start off with just like a basic introduction to XLOOKUP. So each progressive video will kind of go through more examples and more details of the different variations and how you can use XLOOKUP, but for the most part, the first video is going to just kind of do a brief synopsis of XLOOKUP and kind of point you in the right tools and location to kind of brief yourself and get familiar with it. So XLOOKUP, of course, is one of the brand new functions that came out in 2019, and its primary purpose is to function as a successor to like VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP. There's a lot of features that XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP have that are limited in scope that XLOOKUP serves to kind of be better able to utilize kind of overcome those limitations. So that's kind of one of the reasons why XLOOKUP is so popular, and if you haven't already started using XLOOKUP, I highly recommend you do, because it's definitely kind of like a lifesaver, I'd say, but it definitely helps speed things up, and it also helps especially if it's a document that you have a lot of changes, especially with column changes, things like that. XLOOKUP is just more it has more elasticity in terms of being able to adapt based on you modifying the structure of a document, whether it's adding different rows, more columns, things like that. Whereas with VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP, there's limitations that unfortunately would require you to kind of update your whole formula everywhere else you're using it. So that's kind of like the brief synopsis. And so for the most part, this is the basic initial setup with XLOOKUP. But one of the things you'll discover is that XLOOKUP, like most formulas in Excel, you can actually modify it in different ways to accomplish different things from the initial setup. So of course, XLOOKUP, the basic parameter is that you have the lookup value, the value to search for, the lookup array, the array or range to search for, the return array, the array or range to return. So, and of course, there's options if it's not found. Match mode, which you could either have exact match, which is 0, -1 for exact match. If not found, return the next smaller item. 1, exact match. If not found, return the next larger item. Wildcard match, where either one of the asterisk or question mark or one of the special meanings. But for the most part, we're going to kind of go through all of these in different variations. And then of course the search mode, specify the search mode to use, whether it's 1, perform a search starting at the first item. This is the default. -1, perform a reverse search starting from the last item. Perform a binary search that relies on a lookup array being sorted in ascendant order. If not sorted, invalid results will be returned. And then -2, perform a binary search that relies on lookup array being sorted in descendant order. If not sorted, invalid results will be returned. Alright, so the first example in this video we're going to go over is just the basic functionality of XLOOKUP. And as you can see, all these examples, now these examples are directly from the Microsoft website itself, and a link of that will be listed in the video below. But in essence, I highly recommend that if you haven't, or you're not familiar with this, location for the support for the different formulas and just like the different articles that Microsoft provide for when they're introducing a new formula, I highly recommend reading it. It's chock full of a lot of information. Plus, it's also like a good starting point for kind of seeing where their mindset was with creating this formula and how they expect it to kind of use and grow within the Microsoft Excel community. So for the most part, definitely highly recommend reading and just kind of getting familiar with this location for Microsoft support formulas. But for the most part, we're going to switch over to the Excel document that I have for this example, and we're going to kind of just go through some basic examples. So the first example, and I'll zoom this in so you can kind of see a little bit better. Okay. Alright, here we go. So example 1 is a pretty basic, Excel formula lookup. And for the most part, so example 1, pretty basic XLOOKUP. And so for the most part, I will have a copy of the formula in the video itself, so you kind of look at it. But I like to actually show the formula how it's written, and so that we can kind of see the visualization of the formula and how it's being used. For the most part, this formula is simple. We're looking to get the information for the prefix or the dial code based on the country selection. So right here, I have a drop-down menu selection based on the list of the countries, and whenever I switch over to a different country, it provides me a dial code. Pretty basic example to start with Excel formula, and for the most part, if you've not used Excel lookup before, this is a great place to kind of familiarize yourself with the basic initial usage of the XLOOKUP. But you'll notice that there's only 3 arguments here. I'm not using any of the exact match or the search mode that is additional, and that would only occur, for example, like right here. If we drop down and choose, you'll see that any of these selections right here would choose to automatically provide something, okay? But for the most part, what happens if I left this blank? You'll see it's not applicable. And so that's where like this search function that comes in, or that is entered after the fact, after right here in terms of the if not found or the match mode or search mode. These little three things right here, they kind of gives different scenarios for in case you are not able to find something, what would you want to return. So in this example, if there was no selection, I could actually just put, you know, space in there, so that way it returns just a blank space. Or I could actually put something in there, text saying, you know, not found. So pretty straightforward, but for the most part I'm going to revert it back to how I had it originally, so not applicable, and I'm going to actually choose the state, country. So for the most part it's a pretty, you know, basic, you know, equal XLOOKUP, you choose the actual, you know, what you're searching for, in this case the country, and then of course you choose the column for where the country begins the initial search, so it'll be from A2 to A12 in this example, and then technically it could have been A3 to A12, but that's fine. And then you choose the prefix, so from C2 to C12, and that's where it's going to look for. So in essence, the XLOOKUP is using this search list right here that you have provided. In this case, you choose India, and then it's going to look in the column right here at India, and then it's going to choose what corresponds with India in the other column that you have selected for it to search. So pretty straightforward, pretty basic. So I wanted to add that, you know, to get the same exact results using VLOOKUP, the formula would look like this right here. And for the most part, you know, again, pretty straightforward for VLOOKUP. This information is not very too crazy, so for the most part VLOOKUP is a good option in case you're, you know, less familiar with XLOOKUP and prefer to stick with VLOOKUP. So for simple data like this, VLOOKUP is also pretty good. So you can see, you know, pretty straightforward. You look for the country, you know, the selection, so in this case from A3 all the way to C12, and that's the search area, and then of course we're starting from the left to the right, so 3 from the left is what we're looking for. So in this example, you know, for India, 3 from that would be 1, 2, 3, that bingo, 91, and then we're looking for 0, looking for an exact match, which is why we have 0, or in this case, 0 is the equivalent to false. So yeah, so I wanted to at least point it out as an example, so that way you kind of see the difference in terms of the formulas and how they provide the same result, but of course are, you know, used differently. So cool. All right. So for the most part, I like to keep my video very precise and to the point, and not have it like a long drawn out video showing, you know, 15 different examples. Then I'll show you 1 or 2 examples to the point, and then we're going to move on to the next video. And so that kind of summarizes the basic introduction to XLOOKUP in terms of how the initial usage of XLOOKUP will, you know, be used. However, as you get bigger and more worksheets, that's where all the other features for XLOOKUP come into play, particularly the if not found, the match mode, search mode, as well as the nested XLOOKUP, as well as XLOOKUP within an XLOOKUP. So there's definitely a lot of variation, but we want to at least get the foundation set in place, and so that way we could kind of branch off this video and do more advanced things in the next video. So thank you guys for watching this quick you know, tip on XLOOKUP, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.